We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast was produced, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present.
In this episode, there is a mention of suicide. If this topic is triggering for you, please seek help by visiting Lifeline's website at lifeline.org.au or by calling 13 11 14.
It's late August in 2017. And Jeremy Evans is making his way through the woods in Alberta, Canada. He's heading to his favourite spot deep in the bush. It's so far in that he's had to leave his car on the trail and ride his mountain bike the rest of the way through the slim gaps in the trees and the thick undergrowth. It's quiet here, and he's never seen another person this far in. It's perfect for what he wants. He needs stillness and silence. He's on a scouting trip, preparing for the opening day of ram hunting season. It's a big deal here, and Jeremy is determined to finally catch one himself. He settles in, but he's not alone. He sees a small brown flash in his peripheral vision, and immediately he knows he's in trouble. People don't come here, but bears do. I'm Matt Middleton, and this is Head Game. Today, life lessons from a grizzly bear attack. Jeremy, how are you? Welcome to Head Game.
Thank you for the invite.
Now, I was absolutely blown away by the mental resilience that you had to muster during your bear attack. Oh, you're lucky to be here, right?
Very lucky. And despite the odds, I survived the bear attack. And then after that, the infections and struggling with mental health for following years after, it's just been an uphill battle.
Well, let's break that down. Let's just take me back.
So it all really started on August 23rd. I get home from work and I'm super excited to go out sheep hunting because I was taking 4 days off, and I spent that whole entire summer looking for sheep, and I finally found some legal rams, and I was on them every weekend. So I was extremely stoked to have 4 days off to go on my dream hunt, which I've done 17 years in a row, but never been successful. This year is going to be different.
Oh, is that it? So the ram hunt, you've been on it for 17 years, never been successful, and in your head, this is the moment, right?
Yeah, of course, I think that every year. But so that night, I'm packing the rest of my gear, pretty excited, taking some selfies with my daughter, who was 8 months old at the time, and this is the first time I was actually going to be away from them. So that night, went to bed pretty early, got up around 11 o'clock. It's about a 2.5 hour drive out to the place where I go sheep hunting. Get out there, moon's out. It's pretty bright out. It's about 2:30 in the morning, and I'm at my truck getting my bicycle off and just throwing the last little bits and pieces in my pack. And I see my bear spray and a couple little plastic bars full of ammo, like you hold 10 shells, and jam those in the backpack. And I have my bear spray, and I'm like, throw that in the pack. Don't really need that. And then hopped on my bicycle, and of course it's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and riding my bike down the trail. No flashlight because it's bright up with the moon. And my goal was to head to my sheep camp, which is 18 kilometers as a crow flies from my truck. And from there, I usually set up and can go to 3-4 drainages. I come up this one drainage, and it's quite steep and rocky, so I'm carrying my bike up, and I get up to the edge, and as I peek over the edge, and I started seeing sheep, so I got pretty excited. I'm like, "Oh, right, this is awesome." This is August 24th, so the day before sheep season actually opens up. My whole goal was to get back there, find my ram, sleep on them that night, wait till the next morning, hopefully harvest them, and then get my butt out of there. And then I got to a spot where I noticed some rams. You can definitely tell, you can see the headgear on them from a long ways away. So I started really looking, and took my backpack off, put it against my bicycle, and sitting there with binoculars, and I'm shaking so bad because I'm huffing and puffing, and I'm just excited. So I got my elbows on the handlebars of my bicycle, and I'm looking at him like, oh, there's my ram that I've been watching all summer. There he is. I can tell that's him. Then I stood up and brought my binoculars down and just kind of like stretched. And when I stood up, I noticed this little brown thing run in front of me, like less than 10 feet away, and it just cut across from my right side and my left side, and it was really quick. And, and I just got this feeling like I'm screwed. Like that was a grizzly bear cub. And I just caught a glimpse of it. And then, I'm sitting there thinking in that split second, like, I'm screwed. This is like being in a car crash and you're flipping through the air and you're about to hit the ground. You just don't know when it's going to happen, but you know what's going to happen. And I was sitting there like reaching down in my backpack to grab my bear spray. And as I was reaching down, I heard a branch break over my right shoulder, and I turned and looked. And when I looked, there was Mama. She was on a full charge, less than arm's reach away. I literally had no time to react. All I did was I had one hand in the backpack and one hand was on my bicycle frame. I just picked up my bicycle and stepped to the left, and I dropped my bicycle in front of her. And her head went right through the frame of the bicycle, and she stopped dead, and she turned and looked at me. When she turned and looked at me, she had like the bicycle around her head like a necklace. So I grabbed my backpack, and the first thing I did is I smashed her right in the face with it as hard as I could. She shook the bicycle off, and then she clamped down, and she managed to get a hold of my right hand and crushed it against the frame of the pack. I remember looking at my hand and holding the frame of the backpack, and I can hear and feel her teeth kind of separating the bones of my hand, and I can hear the teeth grinding on the frame of my backpack. I just wriggling, trying to get my hand away, and I didn't really feel any pain at the time. I managed to get my hand away, and then I was like, well, this sucks. So I started really beating her on the head with the backpack, just hitting her as hard as I could, smashing her in the face. And she kind of got the hint and started to walk away. And so at this point, I started to walk away watching her, and I had my backpack against my hip and trying to step backwards. I was unzipping my backpack, trying to pull my bear spray out. And I remember I just took my eyes off her for a split second, and she was about 30 feet away. And when I looked up again, she had spun around and she coming in, charging in. I threw my backpack at her. I was hoping that she would chew on that and I'd be able to get a chance to climb up a tree. I'm on a fairly steep mountainside, so I decided to run up the hill, up the mountainside, hoping to get enough elevation I can jump into a tree and get some extra height right away. I made it about 60 or so meters, and I started climbing up into this spruce tree, and all I can hear behind me was, and you can just hear.
It's coming.
Yeah, you can hear the freight train coming through the bush. You can hear her land and huffing, and so I got about 5-6 feet up the tree. I remember looking down, and my right leg was hanging low, and she stood up on her hind legs and wrapped her paws around my right leg, and then she just reached up, grabbed it. And then she lunged forward, pulling my leg down into her mouth. And she grabbed me behind the right knee, and her front teeth caught her on the front of my knee. And I'm looking down as she's biting my knee, and you can hear everything just crunch. I'm thinking to myself, looking down, going, "This is gonna hurt." She with one yank, and I hit the ground pretty hard. She just pulled me out of the tree like nothing.
When she rips you out of the tree, do you think, right, I'm on the ground now with this grizzly bear. Round 3 is going to be the third and final round.
At this point in time, everything's happening so fast that you don't really have time to think. I mean, when she pulled me out of the tree, I hit the ground, and all I could just think of to do was crawl underneath the tree and wrap myself around the tree, hoping that the spruce browse would protect me, her clawing away and digging away. At first, it was working really well. Like the spruce browse, can't really get a good hold of me. And then she almost seemed like she got frustrated, and she reached in with her mouth and grabbed me on the left side, just below the rib cage, kind of in the love handle area. She grabbed me there, picked me up, and shook me and threw me, and then I landed a few feet away. When I hit the ground this time, it knocked the wind right out of me. I remember I was just trying to take a breath, and I was curling up in a ball and just, go in the fetal position and cover my head and face. And before I can even do that, I got on my right side and I started curling up in the ball. She was on top of me in half a second, just bang, right there. And then this sort of things got really real quick. Her first bite, caught me on either side of the left eye.
So she's got hold of your face at this stage.
Hold of my face. And when she clamped down, she moved the whole left side of my face, my left eye, all the way down to basically my lower part of my jaw. She removed all the skin and everything, and my eye was still there, but she crushed everything. And I was just thinking, like, fuck, this sucks. Like, this sucks getting chewed on. Like, screw playing dead.
Is that what you were doing? So you're thinking at this stage, right, I've got to do something. If I play dead, then this bear's going to kill me.
I didn't think I was going to survive at this point. Like, that first bite, I was like, screw this playing dead. Like, how do you play dead and something's chewing on it? Like, I didn't think I was going to survive. I just wanted her to stop biting me. So I rolled my back and I just started, with my right arm, punched her in the nose. And then I started trying to poke her in the eye and I grabbed her ear. Then she come down to bite me a second time in the face, and she come right forceful. She was right over top of me, and it was almost like a sweet moment. Like the way her face was, her mouth was open. It just was like a perfect opportunity. I ended up punching my left hand into her mouth. I remember my middle finger and index finger sliding down her tongue, and I could feel all the bumps and ridges on her tongue and like the little scars. You know, at first it was like hairy leather, then really soft. And the back comes like more bumpy. And I shoved my middle finger, index finger down her throat, and I wrapped the rest of my hand around her tongue. My whole thought was if I got a hold of her tongue, she wouldn't be able to bite me anymore. And her muzzle was probably partway down my forearm, and my hand's in her mouth, and I'm holding on. And I could feel her teeth crush down on my hand, and you can feel things cracking in there. But then her back legs, she was standing over top of me, and her back legs were digging in my right side, and that was quite painful. The claws, pinching down on my skin, and I was pushing the hind end, trying to push hard, trying to get off from that pinching part of the skin. And my hand slipped, and I hit the belly, and I could tell it was the belly because it was thinner hair and more skin. And I reached up between the legs and grabbed a big chunk of loose skin, twisted and pulled. And when I did that, she just kind of made almost like a oh sound. She started to squeal like a pig, like a real deep squeal of a pig. It's the most oddest sound.
So let me just set the scene, Jeremy. So you've got half your face missing. Your last ditch attempt, you think you're going to die. She's crushing on your hand, and with the other hand, you reach down to a sort of more tender area. You pull, squeeze, and twist, and then all of a sudden you hear from a bear, you hear a pig sound, sort of like a big squeal coming out. Did you think to yourself, right, this is the sweet spot, this is the soft spot, I need to attack this spot in order to get out there?
Well, at the time I was thinking, now I got you, now watch this, right?
Got you. Oh, so you did, Jeremy. You actually thought to yourself, I've got you.
I've got this, right? I got you,
I've got you, even though my face is half torn to pieces and still in your head, you think, I got you this. Now. It's my turn.
Watch this.
Watch this.
So I'm holding on, and she's really squealing and bucking around. And so I let go, figured she had enough. I let go. And all you remember is her just defecating and the smell, and her running off back the way she came, defecating, just squealing up the mountainside.
This stage here, she runs off, and
I'm fine.
Just describe, you're fine. Just describe your feeling. And was it, even though your injuries were horrendous, were you elated? Were you relieved that the bear was no longer mauling on your face? Or did you not have time to think about that? Were you just like, right, I've got to get out of here?
Well, I was sitting there, I stood up right away, dusted myself off, and I was thinking, so that really sucked, right? Like I was kind of mad. At first I didn't realize how injured I was. I walked over my backpack like nothing happened. I opened my backpack and I'm sitting there thinking like, this sucks, like there's my sheep hunt's over now, and I'm disappointed in myself, that this stupid bear come along. And so I got on my phone and I wanted to see what I looked like because, I wasn't sure. So I took a selfie, and that's the one in the book where I'm missing a large majority of my face. And I remember looking at that picture going, well, it's not too bad. I can still go over there and shoot that sheep or go look for this bear.
So you're actually, at this point, Jeremy, you're actually disappointed that your sheep hunt is over. Is that genuinely your thought process after being mauled by a bear?
Yes, I was like, I didn't think it was that bad because, I mean, at this point in time, this was probably, let's say 10 minutes of fighting of me and the bear, not even, maybe 5 minutes from when I first saw her until me getting to my pack. And so like the whole time with me, hand-to-hand combat at this point with the bear was probably maybe only, I don't know, 30 seconds, 40 seconds. So like everything happened really quick. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, it's not that bad. Like I can't really feel anything, I mean, I look okay in that picture and it's not too bad. That's my thought. So I got my pack open up and I'm just sitting there and I'm debating what to do. Do I go look for this bear and go shoot it now? Or do I go over there and shoot the sheep? And like, I just didn't know what to do. Or do I just pack up and go back? I'm leaning against this old rotten stump or log and I got my pack open and I got my gun out and I got my gun up against my shoulder on the left side and I got the clip in my right hand and I'm putting shells in my clip and I'm thinking like, this sucks. Like, now I got to go home and, it goes my weekend. And as I'm loading up the clip, everything went numb all of a sudden. My hands dropped to the side and I heard a sound of like ice breaking. Everything just went numb and I just hear like just ice cracking, like somebody taking an ice tray and cracking. The bear had come back and she had grabbed me by the back of the skull now. And of course I had no clue, didn't expect this at all. It was just, everything was totally relaxed.
Well, Jeremy, wait. So you are sitting down, putting clips in your weapon, and then you hear clicks. It's obviously the bear coming back, right? And the next thing so you don't even expect anything. You just hear these clicks. The next thing you'll know, you're being mauled in the back of the head by the same bear, I take it.
Yeah, so she had, all I heard was just the crunch, the sound of ice breaking. At the same time, everything just dropped. My hands dropped and everything went kind of numb. She had me by the back of the head and she started to drag me backwards. And I remember just seeing her paws go on either side of me, pushing the ground, and she's just heaving, kind of like a dog playing tug of war, and just pulling me back. I don't know how far we went. It seemed like it was quite a ways, and she was just pulling me back. And we come to a stop, and I'm kind of hunched over, and that's where things got real serious real quick. She reached over with her paw, caught me on the bottom left side of the face, and she peeled across from the bottom left corner and peeled all the way up to the right side of my face, removing what was there of my jaw, ripping off my nose, removing my right eye and eye socket, and peeling all the skin off my head, removing my right ear. And then she was chewing on my neck. I thought this was it. Like, I couldn't feel nothing. I could just hear, like your skull cracking inside and all that pressure. And then I fell backwards. I couldn't see anything at this point in time. My left eye was completely hanging out of the socket, hanging down. My right eye was smashed into my head. My jaw was hanging out on the left side, just kind of flopping in the wind. And I could tell that something was above me. I could kind of feel it, and I reached up, grabbed a hold of both hands, and whatever I had, twisted and pulled, and I tried to pull off with whatever I had. And to help hold my body up, I wrapped my legs around her head and neck and just kind of locked him like a UFC fighter. And whatever I had, I was trying to pull off. The harder I pulled, the more she squealed. She started bucking like a bronco, rolling around on the mountainside. And she started really tumbling and going around in circles and just flopping. And I just kept holding on, and then got to a point where I could tell she was kind of moving quite quick. So I let go. And she squealed and just defecated all over me, and all the way down the mountainside. She just ran off. I laid there for a second, and I was feeling my face, and I was like, where's my eye? Like, where's this? Like, there's nothing there. And my left eye was hanging out. There's like a piece of bone in my eye. And with me sitting up looking forward, I can only see down. I had to like touch my bone and hold it up with my eye, be able to see forward.
Wow. So you had to literally position your eye for you to see in that direction, because it was just hanging off.
My left eye. And then my right eye, I remember touching my face and I couldn't feel it, and I couldn't see my hand there. So I tried to stand up and I couldn't. All the ligaments in my right leg were severed from the tree incident, and it was excruciating pain. I started to crawl down the hillside. I knew relatively where I was on the hillside, like to the trail. And I crawled down, and I managed to find my gear right away. I was feeling around looking for my gun because, I figured I was going to be safe with my gun. So I found my gun right away, and I had some shells in my pocket. I tried to put them in the chamber, but they kept falling out the bottom where the clip goes. And my fingers are going different ways, and I couldn't see well enough to be able to put a shell directly into the tube. And so then I started to panic. And I remember I was feeling around the mountainside trying to find the clip because I needed the clip. First thing I found was my mustache and goatee. I picked up a chunk of flesh, and you could feel like the hair on there, and the soft part of my lips. It's a chunk of that, and then as I was feeling more around the mountainside, I found a big chunk of my scalp or flesh. You could a little bit of hair on it.
So you're literally picking up your own face. You're picking up your beard, your chin, your scalp. You're literally picking up pieces of your face.
Yes, and then I found another part that was like thick cartilage, I thought it was my ear. So I gathered up all these pieces of my face, and and then I managed to find the clip, and I slammed it in the gun and fired at the first thing I saw that was dark. I shot 3 times at it because that's how many shells held in the clip, and then I'm sitting there, and I got all these pieces of my face in my hands, and I'm looking down, and my jaw is hanging down, and I'm just like looking at it, going, "Fuck, this is it. I'm done." What do you do? I'm in the place I love, and I'm in this horrible situation, and my wife doesn't know, and, I screwed up. So I pulled out my phone and, started to text my wife, just let her know that I really screwed up and that this was it. And, as I'm sending these messages to her, just basically my final goodbyes, I knew she's never going to see the messages until they found the body, but I just wanted to let her know that, that I screwed up and I felt so bad and that I love her and our daughter. And as I'm typing these up, I'm just thinking to myself, I'm not going to survive this. This is what death looks like. This is it. I'm thinking I'm dead. I'm done. And I had 2 choices. One, just to let things happen, or 2, to end it myself. So I grabbed a couple of shells, loaded up my gun, and I stuck the butt of the gun against the ground between my legs, and I put my chin and my head on the barrel, and I said my final goodbyes to my wife, I'm sorry, I'm done, and I pulled the trigger, and the gun didn't go off. It just clicked. I thought it was a little weird, so I leaned aside and I cycled the bolt, just opened up the bolt and closed it again just to cock the hammer. And as soon as I closed the bolt, the gun went off, and the barrel was on the side of my face, and it just sent a bullet, inches from the side of my face. And then in that moment, I just thought to myself, fuck, what am I doing?
Is that a moment of clarity where you think, well, obviously this isn't meant to finish like this. This isn't meant to end like this,
When the gun went off in that shot, I was just thinking, what am I doing? I owed it to my wife and daughter to at least try to make it somewhere where we're going to find a body. I still knew I wasn't going to make it, but I needed to at least try, not give up. I needed to just make it somewhere so that the recovery, so my wife wouldn't have to worry as long, they'd find me right away, hopefully, and then shouldn't have to go through the whole ordeal of months of somebody trying to look for me and find me. I just in that moment, I'm just going to try to make it somewhere where they're going to find the body. Just make it across the drainage. And, then I texted my wife, I'm going to try to make it to the truck, but I probably will die along the way. I love you guys. And I grabbed a shirt out of my backpack, and I put it on upside down with the neck part around my head. And I took the pieces of my face that I had, and I threw them in the body of the shirt, folded it down, and then tied the sleeves underneath my chin to hold my chin up. And then I tied 2 knots against the back of my head just to help hold my head straight, just to help my jaw because it was hanging down and it was kind of annoying.
This bloody annoying jaw. I need to strap this up. God, Jeremy, the mindset to think like that. So in your head, you still think that you're going to die. There's no way of in your head that you think you're getting out of this. You're just like, I'm going to position my body in the best position to be found.
Correct. I knew at the time I wasn't going to make it. I was going to die. Like that. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. I was going to die on that mountainside. It's just a matter of where I was going to be. And I want to make sure I was in a spot where somebody can find the body quicker. You know, I tried to stand up, and the first 10 feet probably fell over 100 times because every time I put weight on my right leg, I just topple over and then scramble to get back up again. And, you know, using the gun as a crutch and trying to hold the barrel, and I got the bipod underneath my armpit arm, just trying to get up. And I finally got to a point where I can take a small step with my left leg and then shuffle my right leg forward using my arm and the gun kind of to kick it because I had no control over my right leg because all my ligaments are severed at the knee. And I toppled head over heels, and I remember I landed face first into these boulders, and I had the gun and the sling was wrapped around me, had my arm up, and I just laying there right against the boulders, and I was in a lot of pain. I couldn't hardly move. And, you know, I'm just sitting there listening to the creek, and I literally hit rock bottom, and I really thought this was the end because everything was so painful, and I couldn't move hardly ever. I reached my phone and I managed to pull out my pocket, and I texted my wife one last final message, and message read, I tried, honey. And I just remember laying there in the rocks, and it's just so many thoughts just flashing through my head. You know, my daughter just, you know, never was going to be able to see her again. I was never going to watch her grow up, graduate, never be able to kick her first boyfriend out of the house. I was never going to be able to walk her down the aisle. And then my wife, I mean, I met her in high school, and we've been inseparable ever since, and I was never going to see her again. And, you know, and there's all these things that just flash in your head, and your mind just starts racing, and it's just, and all I want to do is just to have it just settle down and just relax and just let things happen. So I tried to play some music on my phone and just kept hitting the screen and trying to, in the music app, just trying to play some music just to calm things down. And then the song came on, the song that actually I played the night before to my daughter while putting her to bed. And it was her favorite nursery rhyme at the time. And the song was Baby Shark.
Baby Shark. Does it change the way you think?
Well, you know, sitting there listening, the song was on repeat, to my luck. And I don't know how many times it played over, but, you know, it got to that point where it's like, God damn it, like, turn this off. I was just laying in there in it. You know, that song just reminded me of my wife and daughter, and that I gotta try. And so I rolled over, and I remember just looking up, and I could see this rock as literally like arms reach away. And when I managed to pull both arms, pull myself up to that rock. And then I was thinking, well, okay, that's great. Well, I can make it to that next rock. So I pulled myself up, and, you know, that whole time laying on the hillside, I was always focused on is just 3 to 5 feet in front of me, just setting this little mini goal, like I can make it to there.
Next commitment, yep.
And as I achieved these little mini goals, it gave me a sense of power, like I can do this. So then, you know, like I started working my way up, and eventually I got to the top of the hill, and that was pretty powering that I got to there. And then eventually, you know, I got to Outfitters Camp, and which is about halfway out. It's a little over 7 kilometers at this point in time. Of course, there's nobody there, and I was extremely exhausted, beat, and this was, you know, kind of like a last resort, like, hey, these guys are always here, you know, I was hoping somebody be there. And actually, when I got to there, I was really cold, and I mean, this is August, it was probably 25 degrees outside, so very warm, but I was cold and shivering, and I rolled out a sleeping bag in there, and I was going to start a fire and just lay there and let things happen, because I was so beaten up. And I got to the table, and they had a Sharpie and a piece of paper there. So I wrote a little note to the outfitter, just sorry for making the mess and who I was. And the whole object was, you know, I was going to stick this on me just in case when I fell asleep there, I probably would have died, and he would know who I was and be able to call my wife. And on the backside, it was more a note to my wife, just let her know, like, this is my wife, let her know that I tried and I love her. And I wrote that, and I think, fuck, you know, I'm going to try to, maybe they're on the trail coming in. Maybe I'll find them. And then I started walking the trail. out to my truck. I had another 5 or so kilometers to go. I got to a point where I remember being at the bottom of the hill, just thinking, do I take the creek and go down the creek, a couple kilometers to where the road crosses and walk back? Or do I just go up the hill and over and down to my truck? And I was thinking to myself, if I went down the creek, I'd definitely make it because it's flat, easy walking. But if I died along the way, no one would find me. So I decided to stick to the hill. And I got to about 3/4 of the way up the hill. There's these 2 boulders there, they're about the size of shoe boxes. And these rocks drove me nuts for the last 17 years of going into this place. They were right in the middle of the trail. I've always been too lazy to take them out. When I ride my bike there, I'd always hit them and almost fall over, like without fail. You'd think I'd, move them out of the way. But I saw these 2 rocks at my feet, and I'm thinking to myself, I knew at that point I was going to make it to the truck. Like, I knew I was going to make it. And so from there, I had a kilometer to go. I got to my truck, and I fired up the truck, and I got my hands on the wheels, and I look up. I'm looking outside, and I can't see the end of the hood. And I rolled on the driver's side window, and I look down. I can't see where the ground starts. I don't know. And I look back out the windshield, and all I could see was just dark green on the other side, all fuzzy, and a light spot in the middle. And I figured the light spot in the middle was the middle of the road, and just aim for that. I drove 22 kilometers on it, and it took me probably a little over an hour to drive the 22 kilometers. And at the beginning of this road, there's a bunch of little, I want to say like dude ranches and like little resorts. The last one on the road is a place called Panther River, and I pulled into there, and I knew the place because I stayed there the weekend before. And I walked into there and basically walked into this lodge and like, hey, I need some help. I got mauled by a bear. Of course, everybody in the lodge there, the ladies working there, they're all freaking out and panicking, and one's trying to call 911, one's trying to call STARS, the air ambulance, and so things were going pretty crazy. So they brought me out back, put me in my truck, and they had me waiting there. And so then a helicopter lands, private helicopter, loaded us up in the helicopter, flew me to a small town called Sundre, which is about a half hour, 45-minute flight away. We land there, everything's fine. The helicopter lands, everybody stand outside the helicopter. They open up the door, and I turn and look, and I said hi to the first person that opened up the door, and of course shit hits the fan. Everybody's scrambling, running around. There in the hospital, they didn't really know what to do with me. I was fighting with everybody because they kept trying to take my tourniquet off my head and wanted to see, and they weren't going to do surgery. They weren't going to do anything for me. They just decided to throw me in an ambulance, send me off to Calgary. They were hoping I was going to die because, there wasn't really anything they can do. I arrived in Calgary, and, they took me right into the emergency room, and it's about 9 o'clock at night. The picture I took of myself and my face was taken at 9:36 a.m. So this is literally 12 hours after the bear attack. I was in the hospital, a little over 5 weeks. And all throughout the whole entire time, I had somebody there 24/7 because at night I had constant flashbacks. During the day, I had to wear signs on me and labels because the minute they touched me in the chest or anywhere but the feet to wake me up, I'd wake up flailing and
thinking that the bear's there, and you're going through that whole process again, right? It's the PTSD kicked in sort of straight away. It's like you were just back in the crying canyon.
Like ice cracking, someone gets a drink crack on ice, that would do it. Crunkling paper, the smell of blood, just the littlest things would set me off. And, right away when I was in the hospital, I asked for psychiatric help. Like I knew I wasn't going to be able to get this over, get through this by myself. And I had several therapists, and, asking for that help, it was not me being weak. It's more of a strength, not a weakness.
And there's also that stigma behind, asking for help, especially within men, still, rooted by that old school sort of mentality. Then all of a sudden you're in this position. It doesn't make you any weaker. It doesn't make you any less of a man. It actually makes you stronger. It's going to make you more of a man because, you obviously need the help. You need to be thinking clearer. You've got a beautiful child. You've got a beautiful wife. The help is there and it's needed at this stage, because if not, you can't get through this by yourself, can you? Let's be honest, Jeremy.
No, I couldn't. And we started doing the training right away, and with the therapist, it actually took till I was So August 24th, I got mauled, and then September 12th was the first day I actually looked in the mirror, and that was a huge thing. I never seen myself up until that point. At the hospital, I had them all tape up all the mirrors and everything, so I couldn't see myself. I didn't want any pictures taken of me, so it was very few because wasn't supposed to survive. And the day when it came to look in the mirror, the nurses got there early. They cleaned up my eyes. They touched up my hair, my face, my facial hair. They trimmed it all. My wife got a nice plaid shirt for me, and we made a huge deal out of this day. All the friends and nurses there, and everybody's there for support. And of course, we get the therapist comes in, and she's got this little tiny hand mirror, and she's like at the opposite end of the room, and she holds the mirror up. She goes, "Are you ready to see yourself?" Yeah. So she holds the mirror up. Well, heck, I mean, I can't see 10 feet, let alone see this mirror, what I look like. And it was up to me to make the decision, like, here, come closer, come closer. And then 10 minutes later, here I am holding the mirror in my hand, and I'm like, wow, this still looks like me. Not bad. I was actually pretty surprised at what I looked like. And then, of course, the doctor makes a smart remark. He sees a picture of me on the wall before the bear attack, and he says, I wish I would have had that before because I could have done a better job. He was a really cool guy. But
a bit of humor in the face of adversity never hurts, does it?
It never hurts. And so fast forward to 6 months, I got diagnosed with PTSD. And, I was doing the cognitive thinking, working through, knowing the triggers, being able to understand them, and things were going good. I got to, 2.5 years after the attack. I was almost nightmare free for a month, at a time. And then it'd come in cycles. And then things started going sideways, like completely sideways. I was maybe sleeping 12 hours a week, constant nightmares, flashbacks during the day. I'd get them all night long. So one day I got home from work early, and I was on the couch and I watching TV, and I fell asleep. My wife gets home with my daughter, and of course she sees my truck, and she's super happy to see me. Daddy's home, we get to play, right? And what does any 2.5-year-old want to do when she sees Daddy laying down?
Jump on Daddy.
Jump on Daddy. And my wife didn't quite clue in at the time, but my daughter come running in, and here she comes, runs, and she jumps on me. And of course I go into a immediate flashback, and I think I'm fighting the bear, and I grab her and I end up throwing her across the room, and she got hurt real bad. My wife is trying to hold me down. I end up falling off the couch and, beating up her, and just, I finally come to, and there's blood all over the place. My daughter's screaming. My wife is crying, and I'm really confused. There's blood all over the place. Why am I at home? Like, why is my family here? Like, the bear's here. Like, it's coming back. Like, get out of here. And, probably 7 or 8 minutes of me sitting there and just trying to understand what's going on. And then it came clear to me, like, then everything came in focus, and it tore me apart, because that's like one of the things you don't want to do is hurt your family. I didn't mean to.
That must have been horrendous. And it's one of the things as well, Jeremy, that got you through, that kept you alive, right? And then all of a sudden the tables have turned. Oh, what went through your head?
That destroyed me. From that point, I started to isolate myself from my wife and kids, because it hurt me every time seeing them. That, it caused them such pain. And things started going downhill really fast. Like, everything was just tumbling. And, I wasn't hardly sleeping at all. And, you just want to end things. You just want to get out of it. One of my good friends that was there at the hospital, I told my wife, just say I'm in a safe place. And me and him had a talk one day, and because he knew I was having a rough time, and he said, hey, like, let's go talk to somebody else. Maybe we can try a different type of therapy and to help you get through this. And I'm thinking, like, well, fuck this. I'm not putting myself out there again. Like, how hard it is to be able to tell somebody that, I tried to commit suicide. I gave up, and it's hard to put yourself out there. And then he said something that clicked for me. He said, what you're doing right now is not working. Why don't we try something else? And if that doesn't work, well, at least we tried it, right? Let's go try it.
Do you know what? I always say that, Jeremy, to people. I say to people, especially people that don't want to talk, I say, and they're going through tough times, they're suffering mentally. I say to them, have you spoken to someone? They say no. And they say, no, I don't want to speak to anyone. You know, that whole sort of male sort of stigma behind it. It's like, no, I don't want to talk to anyone. I said, well, you don't, how do you know that it's not going to work if you don't try it? So try and talk to someone, because you're saying that you don't want to talk to someone and you're still suffering. So at least try to talk to someone. And if it doesn't work, then at least you've tried. It sounds like that you went through that same thing. It's like, right, this, whatever I've done isn't working. Let's try something else. Let's give it a go. If it doesn't work, then we can always go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. And, and there's one of the things hard to get over is the therapists are non-judgmental. They're there to help you. That's the hardest things to get over is like, admitting to them that you're nothing in all this, but they don't care. They're there to help you. And, I didn't know and didn't realize this at the time, but then my buddy said, what you're doing right now is not working. Let's try something else. And so I got into ART, Auxiliary Resolution Therapy, or Rapid Eye Movement. And I get in there and, I really don't want to talk to anybody. And I get there and the therapist says, I don't need you to tell me what happened. We all have different traumas. I just want you to, she said it in a much nicer way. She says, you don't have to tell me the whole story. You don't have to tell me, I understand it's a bear attack, but you don't have to go into it. And she said, what I want you to do is replay parts of the story in your head as I wave my hand in front of your face. I was thinking, okay, this is a little weird. So she gets right up close to me, like right in my face. And then she starts waving her hand in front of my face. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, what kind of BS is this? Like, what's this going to do? And she's waving her hand in front of my face. I'm like, wow, this is like a whole total waste of time. And I'm just sitting there thinking this. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I need to trust her, because there's a reason why she's doing this is because this must work. And it took me about 10 minutes to reset myself. I'm like, hey, let's start again. Like, this is, I need to focus on it and actually trust her and try it. After that 45-minute session, that was the first night I was able to sleep more than 7.5 hours straight without a nightmare flashback. I went a full...
Wow, so it worked.
It worked. And it was the best feeling ever. Like it was, I went for a whole year and a half or more before I had another flashback.
Amazing.
And I did a total of 3 sessions, and I went a very long time without any nightmares or flashbacks. It actually got to the point where I was watching TV shows with grizzly bears in it, and it didn't trigger anything. And before, if a grizzly bear popped on the screen, my wife knew that she'd have to stay up all night long to make sure she woke me up, because I'd wake up, smash my head and things like that. But it's been golden all along now. And it's actually got me to a point now where I'm able to go out and share my story and do podcasts and let people know that, hey, it's okay to ask for mental help. And I did a podcast, my very first one, and I went and did a book signing in a small town. This one lady drove over 8 hours to come see me, to talk to me, because she had a very tragic story, and she wasn't able to talk to anybody or even approach anybody. And so I ended up talking to her, and she says, well, what you said in that podcast really triggered me. And how did you get through it? And now to this day, we still talk once every month, and it's been a little over a year. And not just, every time I hear somebody else's story, like, hey, just because of what you said, I went and got help. And that has led me now into doing inspirational talks with schools and corporations, with telling them about going over like the lessons I learned, like setting the small goals, you can achieve incredible things, being able to trust the experts. That's a huge one. And then about the mental health, it's okay to ask for help. It's a strength, not a weakness.
It's needed. It's okay. It's needed, Jeremy,
it's
right?
Needed,
because
correct.
If you didn't have asked for help, then you certainly wouldn't be in the position that you're in right now to inspire others, to let people know that it's okay. And what you said there about setting small goals, that's the one big thing I got out of this podcast right now and talking to you, was those small goals that you committed to, the next rock, the next tree, the small victories along the way, right? It's just about that commitment. Once you commit to those, you think, right, God, I've achieved this. Let's commit again. Before you know it, you're back at your truck. Before you know it, you're in the hospital getting help. And before you know it, you're back with your family. Jeremy, listen, this has been a fascinating conversation. Talk about the mental resilience and the psychological sort of commitment that you made during that bear attack, and to still be here today to tell the tale. People are going to get so much out of this podcast. Thank you ever so much for sharing your story, mate. And listen, that ram is waiting for you, mate. Go out there and get it.
Thanks, Ben.
Jeremy Evans is the author of Mauled, Life Lessons from a Grizzly Bear Attack. Thanks so much for joining me on Headgame. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our incredible stories, and leave me a review wherever you're listening. I'm Middleton. Catch you again next time.